So we're not running the air conditioning. And this is one of my concessions to the possibility that this process may linger on and I may not be able to return to my my other job right away. And so if you see things start to bead up on my forehead, you'll understand why. But the cool thing about it is that we're opening the windows all the time. Now, this is March in Texas.
No, don't you realize what that means? If you don't have your windows hermetically sealed, Scott, you
might as well.
It's nice to know when you...
Yeah, you might as well just go to Wuhan and lick the sidewalks while you're at it.
Every one of our windows is made of a medical grade N95 mask. So the whole
house. The Chinese win.
But it's actually really awesome. Now, I will tell you, because I walk around in bare feet a lot around here, and I will tell you that I can feel the humidity on the floor. Like the floor just has a little bit of tackiness, you can just, on the hard surfaces, not on the carpet, obviously. When the carpet starts feeling sticky, then I've had enough.
I think we might have entered the TMI zone.
Yeah.
Wow, in the first 90 seconds of the show.
I think we did that about 11 years ago, I think.
Well, if you want to be technical.
For those of you who are new members at BillWhittle.com, and by the way, I'm Scott Ott, and Stephen Green is the guy who was just talking, and then before that, the other guy is Bill Whittle, and you'll see his name at the top of your browser in the URL. And so anyway, there was a time...
Well, the Duke got promoted.
The URL is right above the GIF.
The URL.
So go to the URL and then go south. Due south from the URL is the GIF. Or GIF. Is it GIF?
GIF.
It's the GIF and the gay peg.
No,
anyway,
it's not giraffical, so it can't be GIF.
It's giraffical. So there was a time when we did not have a Backstage episode like this. There was your ancestors did not have access to this high quality weekly catch as catch can meeting.
That's why they were the greatest generation.
You don't have access to a high quality Backstage show either.
Nope.
The truth of the matter is, I think, guys, that we have the only legitimate Backstage in the world of entertainment, because every other Backstage show that I've ever seen is really highly produced. Yeah, and it's curated, and they only keep the good parts. We give you everything. We're not being selective about just giving you the interesting or entertaining parts. We think that would be illegitimate and dishonest.
You wanted us to peel back the curtain. Well,
that's right.
Sorry.
And by the way, raise your hand if you also, at some point in the distant past, have been enjoying the Man in the High Castle series, which I just started watching. It's probably, like, everybody in that show is probably already dead for all I know. This time-shifting stuff. But anyway,
Hitler is.
What's that?
Hitler is.
Well, I don't know yet. That's a spoiler right there. Thanks for ruining this series for me.
Sorry. I mean, today, I thought you were talking about in the modern era.
No. I mean, in the show. In the show, he's very much alive, although they're concerned about his health, and they think he may have Parkinson's or something because he keeps his left hand in his pocket. So they're concerned for his well-being. So, but in any case, so far I haven't seen, as we were talking about before we started recording this, I haven't seen any overt political message with which I would be uncomfortable. Other than the whole message of Nazism and Imperial Japan, but other than that, no.
Other than the entire premise of the show,
that's right.
Nothing has twigged your tender conservative sensibilities.
I don't mind them. I don't mind them trying to force Nazism and Imperial Japanese thought on me, but don't hit me with that American leftist crap. So anyway, but I would encourage you to watch the show and then weigh in the comment section here or in your own member-written blog post about what you think of The Man in the High Castle. I'm sure somebody has already watched the series 4 times and has begun to write a college-level thesis on it.
Well, the book is much, much older.
Oh, the book came out in the 60s, I think, early 60s.
That's almost always true of books. Like,
Did
although
they
some
came out in the 60s?
No, yes, every book came out in the 60s. It was a big era for the book publishing industry. Nothing before the 60s, nothing afterward.
Nothing after.
But during the 60s.
It's good stuff.
I noticed they don't talk about specifically how they got to divide America in half in terms of how did that happen? Nazis crossed the ocean, and in your invasion fleets, we have double the population of both of your countries combined and more guns than you've ever seen.
Yeah.
There was
or will see.
All I know is because they don't tell you, because they basically, when they start the series, they start with the reality that the Nazi Reich has like most of the eastern side of the country. The Japanese have the western side of the country, and then there's a little strip in the middle that's called the neutral zone. So they don't really tell you how it got there. What's that?
I'm just saying the reason they don't tell you how it happened that way is because it's impossible.
Well, what I'm saying is there are some references to a nuclear explosion probably in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that'd improve our fighting efficiency.
Because it would get rid of all the spineless cowards and weaklings.
You know, every time I read one of these stories, I mean, a good alternate history has to exist in the realm of possibility. And Japan and Germany dividing the United States for the reasons Bill just said, impossible. It's never going to happen. But what I always think of is that great line of Humphrey Bogart's in Casablanca when the Major Strasser, I think it was Major Strasser, asks Bogart what his opinion would be if the Nazis showed up in New York. And he said, well, Major, there are certain sections of New York I'd advise you not to try to invade.
Well, and I think I look at this as an extension of what was his name? Capra, Frank Capra's Why We Fight series. This is kind of like Why We Fought. You know, this because the Why We Fight series really kind of portrayed this creeping Nazism that's going to cover the world and this black slime that's coating the planet. And so this is kind of going on saying, well, what if we hadn't won? These are the consequences. And really, I think Frank Capra would approve. Yes. Not of the outcome, but of the idea of the series. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's it. You can tell how these guys are champing at the bit to get at their topics and don't want to engage in idle small talk. And so because Steve has this week's a special burden of hosting 2 episodes.
You mean special opportunity?
It's my joy.
It's a great blessing. It's a burden that he bears with joy. So, but he gets to host 2 episodes this week under contractual obligation. And so, Steve, you get to go first and take all the good topics off the table.
Yes, I do, and I will. Well, first of all, Scott misspoke earlier when he said that the Texas heat might cause him to beat up in sweat there in his office. It's actually going to be when I ask him questions during my lightning round.
Oh, no.
You know, I can feel the accumulation of perspiration already in advance of that. And I just discovered, I run 2 microphones during this show so that we can capture the audio and have a backup. And I just discovered that I've been working without a net. So there was no backup.
But you took care of it now?
Yeah, we're okay.
Okay.
Well, theoretically, see, I've plugged it in, I've turned it on, but I'm not seeing any reaction on the screen. So I think the camera has decided it's going to record from the built-in mic rather than from the lavalier wirelessly transmitted microphone. So this little thing here is doing nothing.
Nothing. But it makes you look very professional.
So if you had to, in a word, describe to our new members what you mean by lightning round, which is already 2 words, how would you describe this?
So instead of having one topic that we have kind of broken down at length during this backstage, because that's what we do. If this is your first backstage, we introduce our topics, so we get a feel for what the other guys want to say, so we can kind of ask some pointed questions and lead them up to that awesome thing that they said during the backstage that then they're going to forget to say during the actual segment. So it never works, but we always try. For the lightning round, instead of one topic that we've already kind of pre-discussed, I hit Bill and Scott up with a selection of smaller news stories, and they don't know what's coming. And it's a lot of fun, especially
These are
for
non-premasticated concepts.
That's right. No pre-chewed Charlies here. Am I
Is
the
that
only
a
one who
thing?
remembers pre-chewed Charlies?
What does that mean?
You might be. What is that?
It was a fake ad that Saturday Night Live did back in the 70s, the original Not Ready for Primetime Players, and they did it live on stage. So this wasn't something they could fake. They did it live on stage. And it was a restaurant for denture wearers called Pre-Chewed Charlie's, where the waiter would come to your table and pre-chew your bite for you. And I can't remember who it was, but he actually took the pre-chewed bite from the other guy and then proceeded to eat it. It was outrageous TV. And I suppose we're not supposed to laugh at that now in the age of coronavirus.
That's right, yeah. You can hardly do that now.
But that was great stuff.
But it's even worse.
Pre-chewed
Like back
Charlies.
then, they were actually, that was spreading things comedian to comedian. And there's guaranteed to be something nasty in there.
That's right. Life on the road is hard. So, I'm going to look this up because I haven't thought about that in
I had
Pre-Chewed
not heard of
Charlies.
that.
Yep.
I do remember the steakhouse where they actually you choose your own live steer on the hoof and they slaughter it for you right there. I forget what that was called.
That was a scene that was a restaurant at the end of the universe from the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy series.
Well, this was actually it was a sketch in Saturday Night Live as well.
Was it?
Yeah.
Then Douglas Adams took it to the next level because at the restaurant at the end of the universe, they had these hyper-intelligent talking cows who would walk out to the table and tell you what their best selections were.
And show you on their...
chef, yes, and how the chef would prepare this bit of this particular animal who was telling you himself.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. That's comedy gold right there.
It'll come to me later. The name of this skit will flash into my head in the middle of the night when it's inappropriate. I don't know when it's ever appropriate. So we're doing a lightning round.
Yes.
And
sorry, go ahead.
Is there anything else?
Well, I just wanted to say I looked up Pre-Chewed Charlies really quick to make sure this wasn't something from my imagination because I was probably only 8 or 9 years old when this came out. And I pulled it up. It is a real thing. And the players involved, and this is some inside baseball, were Bill Murray and Chevy Chase, who were rumored to hate each other. So this was a way to get them on stage and actually swap spit in a friendly manner.
Oh, no. Move on. Some other topic, please.
All right. And, for my regular topic, I want to do something smaller. And I think it'll be good because what I really want is not just to hear from you guys, but to hear from our viewers and our members on this one. But what are you guys doing to stay sane during this extended lock-in? I thought, hey, 2-3 weeks, no problem. I can do that. It'll be a breeze. Here at Villa Verde, it is day 41 since the schools closed, and we're all going a little stir crazy, especially now that after the first week it became an actual lockdown.
I challenge the premise of this. You said stay sane?
Well, you're not going on any murderous rampages, I assume. I haven't seen anything in the papers.
If I were, do you think I'd tell you?
I can help move bodies. You should tell me. I got a dolly and a truck, man. We can make stuff happen.
I have a dolly. Okay. So just kind of personally, how are we?
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Yeah. If you have any advice to share, particularly any no's, stuff that didn't work. But mostly, I want to keep it upbeat, positive, share some good advice, and get some feedback. Because it's one of those things that because of this lockdown, you don't get to talk to people who aren't already in your circle about stuff like this. And I want to soak up the information from people I don't normally get to talk to about things like this.
I think I've always lived by the principle of happiness through low expectations, and so this really doesn't. It's not that bad. Because I'm really not expecting much out of it. I'm the guy, when you go to the movie theater and you're sitting in a really horrible alleged comedy movie and there's somebody laughing like a donkey in the back of the room, that's me. And it's not because I necessarily think that there's high quality humor to be had in this movie. It's because I've already paid my $10 or whatever it is to go to a movie these days. And I'm going to have a good time even if the movie stinks.
So you did see the new Star Wars.
Yes, and speaking of rom-coms, but I didn't. But it's all, the other thing is I never expect much. Like I don't think it's going to be very good, and so if it's even slightly not terrible, I go, that's not bad.
Okay.
So this will be fun. And the entire time we've been doing this, Bill has actually been playing a very vigorous game of whist online. He's playing a rubber of whist with somebody remotely. And so, Bill, shockingly,
I'm just doing a little research on my topic. That's all.
That's what I figured.
Yeah.
I was trying to let you off easy in the eyes of the audience by suggesting that you were doing something completely unrelated.
No, I'm actually the only one here doing the actual work required to do the show.
That's a good point. And by the way, I told you that it was getting warm in my studio, and I'm sorry, but this is the point where I have to take out my fan, and I don't want to turn on the motor because it makes a lot of noise.
So you're just gonna okay.
You are a technological major.
You are generating
Mechanicus
more
Adeptus.
heat doing that than you're
I'm going
releasing.
to get one of those like Amish fans where you got to go and then it blows for like 3 seconds. By the way, while Bill's researching, speaking of Amish.
No, I know what I want. I've done it. I'm done.
Okay. There's a motorcycle brand called Janus, Janus, like the Roman god that looks in both directions or whatever. Anyway, they make these really cool looking retro bikes. Not a sponsor of this program, by the way. This is a spotlight again this week on some company that is not a sponsor of this program. So we do this as a regular feature of people who aren't paying us to support this programming, but we mention them anyway. Anyway, Janus Motorcycles makes these cool little retro bikes that look like they were something from the teens or the 1920s. And by teens, I mean the previous century of teens. Anyway, what was the point of that? Oh, Jay Leno did an episode of Jay Leno's Garage where he's interviewing the guys who started this company. And they're in Indiana. And they said a lot of the metal work on these bikes is actually done by Amish guys. So they're casting the metal.
That is retro.
Yeah. So even though it's unlikely that an Amish guy is ever going to drive one of these little Janus motorcycles, they do excellent work on motorcycle bodies and motors and stuff, apparently.
Very cool.
Okay, that's the end of our non-sponsor spotlight. Bill Whittle, you're hosting an episode this week as well, which is now thoroughly researched since we've burned off 17 minutes and 58 seconds.
That is hardcore research.
I'm going to start with Brian Stelter crying
from CNN.
And I'm just going to go from there. That's just going to be my launching pad. That's not my destination. That's where we're shoving off. So, do you know the story, Scotty?
No, I think I actually met Brian Stelter once, but I'm not sure.
I'm impressed that you could remember him. Let me see if I can get the exact.
He walks across a sandy beach, and you never knew he was there. He just he makes no impression.
So here's what the CNN commentator and former reporter for the New York Times had to say in a series of tweets. Last night I hit a wall, gutted by the death toll, disturbed by the government's shortcomings, dismayed by political rhetoric that bears no resemblance to a reality, all of which are thanks to you, worried about friends who are losing jobs, kids who are missing school, and senior citizens who are living in fear. I crawled in bed and cried for our pre-pandemic lives, tears that had been waiting a month to escape. I wanted to share because it feels freeing to do so. Now is not a time for faux invincibility. Journos are living this, hating this, just like everyone else.
I cried hot, wet tears.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'm not joking now. I'm serious about this.
No, and I think that if there's anything I learned by being raised by a guy who fought in World War II and survived the Great Depression, is that a man can cry like a big fat baby, but he should just never tell anybody that he did it.
Precisely correct. You've stolen a line from my episode, but basically, I'm not saying that men can't cry, But I am saying that they have to walk off from the rest of the group, find shelter behind a large rock, and then when they cry, they've got to do that. Tom Hanks in Save It Private Ryan showed the perfect way for grown men to cry. Crying about beautiful things like jet fighters or America. That's
you get a tear of joy.
Not
tear of joy that's completely different.
So it looks like another snark fest, and it is. But there's a deeper point behind this. There really is. This is the guy who's determining what America knows about the pandemic. This is the kind of guy who's reporting on what's going on in America in the middle of this great case of sickness, and he is determining how a significant amount of the country feels about things. The fact that he wrote for the New York Times tells me that he's not alone in this, and so this is, when you have Murrow, right, in London being bombed, saying, "Hey, we're not afraid of these German bastards. There's nothing to fear but fear itself. We're tough people." And I look outside and I see blood on the window panes, but the Brits are out there fighting back and they're shooting the guns, and Hitler, you're going to get yours. And he did this for years. And Brian Stelter is stuck in his house with 39,000 channels of cable TV, and apparently food delivery services are still working for Brian anyway.
Oh yeah.
They're working for me too.
And he hit a wall and he burst into tears and cried, and it's okay. And journos are in this too, just like everybody else, and cried for our pre-pandemic days as if it's the Omega Man, That's really kind of it. It's like it's the Omega Man.
What's Omega Man?
4 people. Oh, that's a Charlton Heston movie based on a movie that's made 3 times called I Am Legend.
Okay.
I Am Legend, then Omega Man, then I Am Legend again with Will Smith.
Yeah.
But it's basically about a pandemic that wipes out the whole
Price
world.
one was quite good.
Right. And there's only like 5 humans left in the whole New York area, something like that. And so, my point is that it's not just, hey, okay, get a grip, Brian. It's like these are the people that have been telling us how seriously to take this. They've been the people who've been hyping the death counts. These are the people that have been criticizing the policies. They're a bunch of hysterical little girls, and they're not only are they sobbing about it, but they're also telling people that they're sobbing about it because they're proud of the fact that they're sobbing about it. They think it buys them virtue points. And I'm not only going to stop there. I'm going even further into the weeds. I looked up pictures of Brian Stelter, and anybody who's in public a lot, and I'm certainly not in public as much as he is, but anybody who has to go to a lot of events, get a lot of photos taken, they have their photo face. If you've been asked to take a picture thousands and thousands of times, everybody has their photo face, and this is mine.
That's it?
And that's it. Nothing to it. And this is his.
Hey, when you've had that kind of work done, you want to show it off.
No.
The thing is, he hasn't
serious.
any work done. The guy is 35 years old, and he looks like a guy in late middle age who's had too many tacos and too much work done.
But I'm not finished.
Of course you're not.
This is called the new male smile. It's also called the soy boy face or the soy smile. And there's a big discussion. I was checking the science, but it certainly seems to be true that the left hates the soy boy slur because it's true, and testosterone levels are falling like catastrophically throughout the country, and there seems to be a correlation between your testosterone level and the amount of open mouth that you show when you smile, not when you laugh. Yeah.
So it's not when they just catch you in the middle of laughter or something. It's like you stop and make this.
It's
and
a
I'm going
pose.
to show 15 photos of him.
Oh,
this is his photo face.
Killing us.
And it's true. And all of these, I think it's really true. All these soy boys have these These really big smiles. Have you ever seen John Wayne smile like that, or any real man? Have you ever seen Tom Selleck smile like that? You have not.
I will tell you, Frank Drebin would do that at the end of every episode of Police Squad.
As a joke.
Yeah.
Because Frank Drebin was a real man.
But you know, Bill, this is right where 1,000 voices cry out, "Okay, boomer," because everybody in this generation, which is, kind of just below us, has a face that they perpetually make for selfies. That's right. Because they're constantly getting selfies taken, and they've got to practice this because they know it looks good, and they don't want to look bad, and they know it's going to be shared with the world.
It makes them look like drooling idiots. Bill, make that face again. All the intelligence and masculinity just melts away from your entire self when you do that.
They don't know any better. And you can okay me boomer into the grave because I'm going into a hand-dug 6-foot deep pit covered with flinty rock, and you're going to marshmallow away into the couch and we won't be able to find you anymore.
I think at some point in this episode, we need to do a freeze frame where we're all making that face that we'll have that for the thumbnail image for the.
Excellent. And I will show plenty of examples. And I'll send you some by text after this is over.
The irony is
you wouldn't make that face.
Whether it's scientifically true or not, and I kind of think it is, no question that testosterone levels are falling. But whether it's true or not, it is the fact of the matter is this is a reporter for CNN. This is a guy who is determining not only what the news is, but how important the news is by his emotional tone and so on. And if he's the kind of guy who has to break down and sob for the pre-pandemic days, then you might want somebody with a little more spine handling the effects of the world.
Well, to me, that's
what I think.
He doesn't get the obvious. I mean, this story is so meta that he doesn't get the obvious implication of this because he is part of the people who are writing the story. And so is this, who was it?
Precisely.
Who was it? Barry Manilow? No, it wasn't Barry Manilow, Neil Sedaka or somebody. But basically he's saying, I write the songs that make me cry. I mean, like, if he really thought about what he's doing there, he should say, wait a minute, why is it that the coverage that my colleagues and I have engaged in has gotten me to the point of utter despair? Is this the best we can do?
Precisely correct. This is the entire point, is like, if you are at the state of if you're at where you hit the wall and you're in a state of total despair, then you are misinformed. Among other things, you're misinformed. Secondly, you're prone to hysteria. Third, you probably went home and cried about it, and then you realized how virtuous it would make you look if you admitted it. And on and on and on we go down the everlasting circling the drain attitude about this. And when I bring this up, I will no doubt be accused of everything, but especially, hopefully, toxic masculinity, because frankly, that is a goal that I aspire to.
We could use a little bit more of that these days.
If I ever have a eulogy that would matter to me if I was alive to see it, it would be to have a bunch of serious, honest, hardworking people, servicemen especially, saying he was toxically masculine. He was a man. He was a real guy.
I was trying to think of any circumstance where somebody told me, another guy told me that he had cried, and I can only think of one. And I think you'll agree with me, he immediately gets a pass. He told me he cried because his dog of 14 years died.
Yes, of course that counts. Of course that counts.
That. Yeah. But he didn't cry in front of you. He didn't make a big demonstration of, oh, my dog's dead. I'm going to go over to Scott's house so I can cry in front of him.
No. And he didn't come over to me and say, let me just tell you in dramatic fashion how I wept hot, wet tears into my pillow. That just didn't.
Did you ever see the Parks and Recreation segment where Ron Swanson talks about the 2 times he cried in his life?
No.
It's like one of them was when he was 9 years old and was run over by a truck or something like that. and then the other time was when his pet donkey died or something like that. I'm tempted to include that just so we can deny ourselves the revenue.
Just so that YouTube can demonetize the episode as rapidly as possible.
Yeah. But in any event, I think it really is a genuine, honest to God political point that needs to be made. It's like these are the people who are, and let's tie it into what we just talked about on Bill Will Now, Scott, on parents just terrified about letting their kids loose into this pandemic world, And it's what else would you think?
They're going to coin something for this phenomenon, because immediately what you're saying here is shaming this man who's being genuine about his emotions and authentic with the public about how he truly feels. And let me just be the first one to coin this and to hashtag it, #pussy shaming.
That's right. I love it. I love it. That is exactly right. I am shaming him. I'm doing my very best.
I'm married to the daughter of a fighter pilot, and it actually scares me what my wife might do if she ever ran across somebody like Brian Stelter in full bloom.
Is it Stelter or Stetler? Stelter?
Stelter, I think.
Okay.
Stelter, yes, Stelter.
Yeah, I don't know.
Helter Stelter.
I kind of draw 3 vertical lines in his name, and then I cross 2 of them.
Before I heard about the crying thing, I just looked at this guy and said, I don't know. I don't know.
There goes the Peter principle.
Oh, he makes the Pillsbury Doughboy look butch.
That's really it.
I got to save that line for the segment.
I've seen bald men and I've seen fat men and I've seen them look like men, but there's something about this guy that looks like if you touched his face hard, it would leave like an indentation there for like half an hour.
Now, I'm not sure I'm remembering him exactly like who this guy is. Isn't he the George Costanza guy on CNN?
Yes.
Yeah,
okay,
a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. Only not so masculine.
Well, this is promising, and I need more of these hygienic pads to be able to dab up the perspiration from this hot room. Okay, so I have two options for you for the episode that I wish to host. One is has been getting a lot of play, especially on the right, and this a snippet of a quote from some unknown person who said that the fact that students have to stay home represents an historic academic regression. And this is horrible because kids have to stay home. Therefore, they're literally getting stupider by the hour as time goes on because they can't be at our nation's fine public schools. And then the other one is that this comes to us from Indonesia, from the one province, from Aceh province in Indonesia, where they are allowed to enforce Islamic law, and that is social distancing at public floggings. So this is
17th century problems.
That's right. Yeah, it's not even like a third world problem. It's really like like from the 1400s or whenever they were doing this. But go ahead, Bill.
I went to school in British schools, and while no one ever administered me a fatal beating, I was in perpetual fear of it, and there's one thing to beat a student to death, but there's something to be said for having them fear that you might.
Yeah. So now in your schools, though, they weren't doing public canings with 40 lashes.
They were indeed. Yes, they were doing
they really?
canings. Yes,
40 lashes across the back.
Not across the back. No.
Okay.
Across the buttocks.
The tuchus,
and I remember distinctly that there was, and it can't be true because it's not true, but I remember seeing it. It's one of those things that is so vivid in your imagination, it becomes a memory. And I remember the headmaster's office had like a cane rack with like glass covers. And there was like, one would be like a little kind of a bamboo kind of a showbiz kind of cane, and then there'd be like a walking stick and then like a shillelagh and then some giant freaking thing like that guy in Walking Dead had, wrapped with barbed wire, and Lucille.
If you don't mind us asking, what was the name of this madrasa that you attended?
This was Saltus Grammar School in Bermuda, which is now co-ed and also no cap. Did I say capital punishment? That's what I meant
Corporal.
to say. No corporal punishment either.
Fatal beatings.
Corporal punishment for just about everything. Capital punishment for select transgressions.
But by the way, if you haven't seen the sketch to which Bill and Steve have both referenced, and I just laugh like a horse, it's Rowan Atkinson does a sketch called "Fatal Beatings," which you
cannot miss it.
You must watch this.
It's got to be on YouTube. Look it up.
Oh, it's all over YouTube.
We'll put it up on the member
is
blog.
A genius.
I went to that school. I swear to God, when he does the accent and everything, that was the headmaster I had. Actually, it was the assistant headmaster. The headmaster never bothered himself with these kind of things. But the assistant headmaster was the guy who was enforcing discipline, and he had that exact attitude.
That's right. So anyway, this idea, it suddenly occurred to me, like there are places in the world where this coronavirus hits and you go, oh, wow, how are we going to do the public floggings now? Like you've got to observe 6-foot social distancing when you're beating somebody 40 times because he was caught public drinking or cavorting in some way. And this is a Muslim area where they're enforcing, what do they call that again? The
Sharia.
What is it?
Sharia.
Sharia. Thank you. I always get that confused.
I just met a law named Sharia
with a big disco
like
star
from
the late 70s. Anyway, they do these public whippings. They caught an unmarried couple together in a hotel room, and they gave them 24 lashes from a rattan cane. But it's really cut down on the attendance, because you've got to stay far enough away. It's like, honey, are you going to the whipping today? Well, I've been thinking about it. Should I wear a mask? Do you think it's important to wear gloves to a whipping?
Nobody goes to the floggings anymore. It's too crowded.
That's right.
Well, you can go to the floggings, but if you don't maintain 6-foot separation, you'll be flogged.
That's Are there any women
and flogged, by the way, flogged with an 8-foot long rattan cane, because you can't well have the guy doing the flogging violate, because then he'll be flogged.
Wow. What's the top speed on the tip of that 8-foot cane going to be? I don't want to think about that.
They're saying, I was never good at geometry. They're saying that because of the social distancing thing, that they are having problems, because it says most of the offenders, this is actually from the story, it says most of the offenders whipped on Tuesday were not wearing protective face masks. And
their howls of pain are infecting everyone.
And images from the scene suggested that some participants came into close contact with each other. So the journalist is like, oh my goodness, somebody might catch the coronavirus. Can't they do these whippings in a way that will ensure that people are safe?
Well, in our house, we've taken the spankings onto Zoom when the kids are bad.
So anyway,
I'm sure Brian Seltzer would have turned out to be a very different boy if he'd only been administered a few fatal
beatings.
Are you sure it's not Brian Setzer from the Stray Cats, or Stetzer? What was
his name?
Stelter.
I don't care.
It is Stelter.
Okay, so
I actually pulled it up because I wanted to get the age on this guy. I thought maybe he was about my age. I'm kind of early Gen X. Born in '69. I'm about to turn 51. And I figured he's probably about my age, a little younger. So I look him up. This guy's born in '85. He's 35 years old. And as I said, when you see him and it's not like a good headshot, you would guess he's got to at least be in his mid-40s.
So this is from an official who apparently is so cool. You know, when you get really cool, you only go by one name, like Oprah.
Yeah.
You know. So this guy's name is Safriadi. He's the official who's responsible for Sharia punishments in the capital of Banda in Aceh. Anyway, he says, and this is a quote, "We just carried out the flogging directly to make it simpler. Whipping will still go on, but we're limiting the number of people involved." Where is it? "To comply with current conditions, we're trying to cut unnecessary procedures like the usual opening speech." So, folks, I'm sorry. I know you come out here for the full, liturgy of the public whipping. But we're going to have to forgo the speech today just out of concern for the safety of the people we're whipping, those doing the whipping, and those observing it.
Wow, I'm still looking at these.
You're not even here, are you?
Oh, those photos. Yeah,
You're somewhere else.
You can't get lost in that stuff, man.
We certainly don't want to put any kind of a damper on Bill's research for his episode. So.
No, just go continue on.
You continue to prattle on. I'm gonna pour this cup of water over my head now. So we better cut the cameras. So we, as usual, come to the point where we have to express our overwhelming gratitude for those people who are willing to endure this kind of what is the closest thing we have in the United States to a public flogging, this Backstage episode of Right Angle. You folks have been with us for a long time, many of you. Some of you are just coming on board and wondering just what the heck have you gotten yourselves into. But we welcome all of it, and we're grateful for it. And so if you are being shown this episode by a friend who's trying to induce you to become a member at BillWhittle.com, don't judge him because of this. There are really...
No, I'm usually far worse than this.
It's a good one.
I'm sorry, I'm just fascinated. It's like watching those trains collide.
Was there something else that you wanted to add to your Brian Stelter Googling? Be careful, by the way, boys and girls. You don't want to just go on Google and just put in the words Brian Stelter, because unless you've got one of those systems that your parents have installed to keep you safe, there's no telling what you might see. Look at that face.
I can't look at Bill when he's doing that. I'll be over here.
Thank you. That's good. It should make you sick.
Bill doesn't actually look like he's smiling. He's looking like he's been asked to by the dentist to show off his uppers and lowers.
Such is the soy boy smile.
All righty. Well, ladies and gentlemen, holy cow, that's 42 minutes and 3 seconds on my clock here.
Oh, that's your membership for the whole month there.
Under current COVID-19 conditions, this is going to take 3 days to upload. So I apologize in advance for the fact that you're seeing this 3 or 4 days after we recorded it. But we are grateful for the contributions of the members who've made it possible. So for Bill Whittle and Stephen Green, I'm Scott Ott. We'll see you this week on Right Angle.